In 1852, a metal now thrown away in kitchen drawers sold for nearly twice the price of gold, and almost no one could get it out of the ground. Look around a modern room and you will find it everywhere. Foil, cans, window frames, disposable trays. Aluminum is the most common metal in the Earth's crust, almost twice as abundant as iron, and its alum minerals have been used since at least Greek and Roman times. It is the third most common element in the crust of any kind, after silicon and oxygen. By all rights, it should have been ordinary from the beginning, but there was a catch. Aluminum does not occur naturally as a pure metal. It bonds so easily with other elements that it stays locked inside its ore, invisible and unreachable. For most of human history, the most abundant metal on the planet was one nobody could actually hold. British chemist Sir Humphry Davy identified aluminum in the early 1800s. And then, for decades, the world's finest scientists hit a wall. They knew it was there, they knew it was everywhere, and they could not find a good way to pull it free. Part 1. Silver from clay. So how does an element that surrounds us become rarer than a king's treasure? The first cracks in the wall came slowly. In 1825, Hans Christian Ørsted in Denmark heated aluminium chloride with potassium amalgam and produced an impure trace of the metal. 2 years later, in 1827, Friedrich Wöhler reacted potassium with anhydrous aluminium chloride and coaxed out aluminium as a powder. These were breakthroughs on paper, but they yielded only crumbs, and each crumb cost a fortune in labor and reagents. The numbers tell the story. In 1852, aluminium sold at $34 per ounce. Gold, at that same moment, was priced at $19 per ounce. The most common metal in the Earth's crust was worth nearly twice its weight in gold. Then, in 1854, French chemist Henri-Étienne Sainte-Claire Deville announced an industrial method at the French Academy of Sciences in Paris, reducing aluminium chloride with sodium. At the 1855 Paris Exposition, the samples were displayed with a name that captured the wonder of it: silver from clay. It looked like precious metal, yet it came from the most ordinary dirt on Earth. Part 2. The Emperor's Cutlery. And when something rare looks like silver but comes from clay, the powerful come calling. No one understood the theater of rarity better than the court of France. In the mid-1800s, the Emperor Napoleon III reserved a set of aluminum cutlery for his most important guests, while the less worthy dined with mere silver. And, by another account, the less favored used gold knives and forks. Imagine the message: your host is so wealthy that gold is what he gives the people he cares about least. Fashionable, wealthy women wore aluminum jewelry. The French government displayed aluminum bars beside the crown jewels, treating the metal as a national treasure worthy of standing next to diamonds. But Napoleon III's interest ran deeper than dinner parties. He hoped this lightweight metal could produce weapons and armor, that it might give his soldiers a physical edge on the battlefield. That was the dream. An army carried lighter, protected better, all by a metal spun from clay. Yet every ambition ran into the same iron limit. There simply was not enough of it, and what little existed cost more than most nations could justify. The metal of emperors was still a laboratory curiosity. Part 3. A point of aluminum. So how do you crown that curiosity? And how does crowning it become the beginning of its fall? By 1884, the price had eased somewhat, but aluminum was still luxury goods. That year, it cost $1.10 per ounce. And that year, the United States chose it for one of the most visible objects in the country, the capstone of the Washington Monument. The reasoning was practical and poetic at once. Aluminum would not tarnish, and it matched the color of the monument. The apex was the largest single piece of aluminum cast up to that time, 8 inches tall and weighing 100 ounces, roughly a 6-pound pyramid. The man who cast it, William Frishmuth, charged $225 for the piece, well above the agreed-upon $100, a reminder of just how difficult and valuable the metal still was. On December 6, 1884, at the dedication ceremony, Superintendent P.H. McLaughlin placed the aluminum capstone at the very top of the monument. A nation had crowned its tallest structure with a metal precious enough to sit beside crown jewels. It was, in a sense, the peak of aluminum's prestige, literally the highest point it had ever reached. And it was almost exactly the moment before everything changed. 14 months later, far from any exposition hall, the future of aluminum was being decided in a woodshed behind a family home in Ohio. On February 23, 1886, Charles Martin Hall, assisted by his sister, Julia Brainerd Hall, passed an electric current through aluminum oxide dissolved in molten cryolite. Out came pure aluminum. It was a strikingly simple idea with world-changing consequences. Electricity, not scarce and expensive chemical reagents, could do the separating. What made the moment even more remarkable is that Hall was not alone. In the very same year, 1886, Hall-Héroult in France independently arrived at the same process. 2 men, an ocean apart, cracked the identical problem at nearly the identical time. Aluminum had remained a precious commodity right up until that year. And then, quietly, in a backyard shed and a French workshop, the lock finally broke. The method would carry both their names, the Hall-Héroult process. But an invention in a woodshed is only a discovery. The question was whether anyone could turn it into an industry. Part 4, the Great Collapse. And what would happen to a treasure once it could be made by the ton? The answer came from Pittsburgh. The Reduction Company of Pittsburgh opened the first large-scale aluminum plants, taking Hall's process out of the shed and into industry. That company would later become the Aluminum Company of America, Alcoa, a name that would dominate the metal for the century to come. And then the price did something no precious material had ever done so completely. In 1888, aluminum cost $4.86 per pound. By 1893, it had fallen to 78 cents per pound. A few years after that, 25 cents per pound. The invention of the Hall-Héroult process caused the high price of aluminium to collapse, and to collapse permanently. Consider the whiplash. A metal that in 1852 outpriced gold, that emperors reserved for their favorites, that a nation set atop its greatest monument in 1884. Within a decade of 1886, that same metal was cheap enough to throw away. The market that had treated aluminum as treasure suffered, as one account put it, a mighty crash. The most abundant metal in the crust had finally become as ordinary as it always deserved to be. Part 5, the value of abundance. There is something quietly profound in aluminum's story. Nothing about the metal itself changed. The same element that sat beside the French crown jewels is the same element crushed into a soda can today. Its worth was never in the atoms. It was in our ability to reach them. For most of history, value came from scarcity, and aluminum's scarcity was entirely artificial, a product of a problem we had not yet solved. The moment 2 determined people, working independently in a woodshed and a workshop, found the key, the illusion dissolved. What had been reserved for emperors became available to everyone. It is worth remembering that the Washington Monument still wears its aluminum cap, a small pyramid that was, briefly, one of the most precious objects in America, now made of a material we discard without a thought. That cap did not lose its history. It simply outlived the scarcity that once defined it. Aluminum's journey from more precious than gold to disposable foil is not really a story about metal at all. It is a story about how knowledge, once found, can never be unfound, and how the things we treasure most are sometimes only waiting for someone to figure out how common they truly are. If this story stirred difficult feelings, you are not alone. Reaching out to a trusted person or a local support line can help. In the US and Canada, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Elsewhere, findahelpline.com lists free, confidential resources near you.